excitement. Oh, this was streamed live, like there was no editing,
That's more, maybe in case, wait, use wake up longer, if they're okay.
Oh, it's like you're live streaming, like you're connecting, like right now. It's like, wow, this is happening right now,
I want to be part of it. It's happening.
It's not virtual, it's real.
Okay, well, today's actually a very special day, and we did have some discussion in the morning. Today's Vasanta Panchami, first day of spring, appearance day of Vishnu Priya Devi, appearance day of Pundari Vijayanidhi, appearance day of Raghunandan Thakur, and also Raghunath Das Goswami, and then disappearance day, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and Shripad Bharati Maharaj and Shripad Parva Maharaj, god brothers of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So, very a day, and also Saraswati Puja today. I think this day there's more, happenings than on any other day in the year. Very concentrated. And also Krishna performs Rasa Leela on this day. Yeah, first day of spring. Yeah, Vasanta Ras it is called. So, yeah. And we talked quite a lot in the morning. And then just now I had a conference call with some devotees in Ukraine and Russia and also America. So and we were also remembering today. And now here we are again. But in the morning I didn't tell the story of Gadadhar Pandit and Pundarik Vijayanidhi. That's a very sweet story. Pundarik Vijayanidhi, he is the avatar of Rishabhanu Raj, the father of Srimati Radharani, and then so Gadadhar Pandit is the avatar of Radharani and Gaura Leela. So there's this special connection between Gadadhar Pandit and Pundarik Vijayanidhi. And in Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's this beautiful pastime recorded how Pundarik Vijayanidhi, he was a very wealthy Vaishnav, and he lived, I think it's called Chattagram, the village where he was from. But because he was very wealthy, then he also had Navadvip at that time. Nowadays when you go to Navadvip, you'll see it's a little different. But in that, this is 500 years ago, Navadvip was like a major center within India. It was a center of learning and a very wealthy place. And so it was like people would have, and the Ganges was there, so the rich people, they might have like their holiday home on the Ganges, So Pundarik Vijayanidhi, he had his main residence in his own town, and then he also had another house in Navadvip. So he would go sometimes to visit. And so there was one occasion he went to visit, and he, as I said, he was very, as I think I said, he was very well. I'm sorry, I'm quite tired. I've literally been talking to devotees like all day long, literally. We had the morning class, and then I had about an hour or half an hour break, maybe 45-minute break. And then I had a long conversation with some devotees in Australia. And then I had a long conversation with the devotee in Ukraine. And then I had this Skype talk with this group of devotees, and I had maybe an hour break. And now so my brain and my tongue and everything's like, and I haven't eaten because my stomach is like upset, so everything's like cross-wired and jumbled. No, but it's very nice.
But we're wondering if Pundarik Vijayanidhi was healthy or wealthy.
Yeah, healthy or wealthy. Probably. Well, we know he was definitely wealthy. He was definitely wealthy and probably healthy and wise. And he was a great devotee.
Nice.
He had everything, materially and spiritually. No. Vaishnava Gurudev. So Punjabi Vijayati was extremely wealthy, and so he was kind of like moving undercover, you know. And this is the mood of the real devotees. They don't like to draw attention to, you know,
Their superpowers.
yeah, to their superpowers. So not that that's an excuse for everyone in the temples dress in their like favorite psychedelic outfit. You know? I want to hide my devotion, so I want to look like really out there. I'm going to wear my mini skirt today. You know? Everyone will think I'm a materialist. You know? No, there's not a license for that. But you know, generally the real devotees, they're hiding. You know, like Vamsi Das Babaji Maharaj he lived in Navadvip for most of his life, and then at the end of his period, in this world, he went back to his hometown. Like, so people wouldn't say, "Oh, he passed in the Dham," you know, such a great soul. He left his body in the Dham, in the holy Dham. So he went back to his hometown, and then he manifested all these sores on his body, and like these oozing, ugly, horrible sores. Like through his power, his Shakti, he could do that. And then he like went around like telling people, "Oh, look at me, you know. I'm such a sinner, you know. My whole life I've been such a sinner, and I'm suffering for my sins," you know. So anyhow, so Punjabi Vijayati, he had this presentation of himself as this very wealthy man of the world, you know, a Vishai, you know, a worldly, materialistic, you know, enjoyer. And so nobody knew who he was, you know, he was kind of undercover, except for one devotee, Mukunda, who was from the same village as him. So he knew him, he knew of his devotional nature, his deep devotional nature. And so Mukunda, he went to Gadadhar and invited him. "Oh, there's this Vaishnava visiting who I know very well. He's a very great Vaishnava. Would you like to come with me, you know, to meet him?" And Gadadhar was excited. You know, "Oh yes, you know, it's an opportunity to meet a new Vaishnava I haven't met before." And so Mukunda brought him there to Pundarik's home. And Gadadhar, when he saw Pundarik, he was, you know, astonished, you know. Because Gadadhar Pandit, he had a very simple, very renounced nature. And he hadn't come across a Vaishnava quite like that before, you know. Of course, there's Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu was pretty eccentric. But everybody knew that was just Nityananda's style, you know. Nityananda was the avadut, you know. And so sometimes Nityananda would dress in a renounced way. Other times he would dress like with silken turbans and jewelry. And other times he would be naked, you know. So Nityananda, you know, everyone knows that's Nityananda's style, you know. But otherwise, you know, Gadadhar Pandit hadn't come across a Vaishnava like that before. And so Pundarik, he's like lounging on this bed with silken covers, and he has this long, beautiful curling hair, like well-oiled hair, and he had a pipe. And Srila Gurudev, he even knew the type of tobacco. I don't know if that's mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavat, or maybe some of that detail is somewhere else, I'm not sure. But Gurudev, there's one talk, Gurudev mentions the like very expensive, special kind of tobacco that he was smoking. He had a servant who was fanning him. And he also had this spit pot, like spittoon pot, like by his bedside. And So he's lounging like this very wealthy, man of the world, And Gadadhar's like, whoa, like what is this? Like, what kind of a Vaishnava is this, And then meanwhile Mukunda is Mukunda's like, greeting him and introducing Gadadhar, and Gadadhar's like thinking, oh, like how can I get out of this? When you have those awkward meetings, you're trying to think of some excuse, Gadadhar's like, oh, this is very uncomfortable. How can I get out of this situation? And then Mukunda, he knows what Gadadhar is thinking. And Mukunda, he's known for having a very sweet singing voice. And, he'll like sing verses. And so he begins to chant this very beautiful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is glorifying Krishna. Aho bakiyam stana kalakutam jigham saya payavat apya sadvi le begatim dachi uchitam tutonyam kambadayalam sharanam vrajema. Kambadayalam sharanam vrajema is describing, how Putana, she came with poison smeared on her breast, meaning to kill Krishna. But Krishna, he was so merciful, he took her intention of wanting to have a relationship as a nurse, like that, which was really superficial, but he gave her a position in her next life as a nursemaid, So then it's saying, Kam va dayalam sharanam vrajema, what more of a merciful shelter will I find? Who could be more merciful than Krishna? She came with this evil intention in her heart, and he gave her a position as a nursemaid, So who else should I surrender to other than Krishna? Who will I find who is more merciful than Krishna? So very heart-touching expression spoken by Uddhava. And so Mukunda started chanting this verse, and then it had this profound effect on Pundarik Vijayanidhi. He heard that, and he started, and it's phrased very beautifully in Chaitanya Bhagavat, I can't remember it exactly, but in this very poetic way, how where was the, what was with that hair, what was with that silken cloth, listing all these opulent things, and how they all became meaningless now. He didn't care, and he was tearing at his hair, he was rolling on the ground, and he was so profoundly affected by the sentiment of that verse, and then he kept repeating this last line, Kam va dayalam sharanam vrajema, Kam va dayalam sharanam vrajema. Who is more merciful than Krishna? To whom will I surrender other than Krishna? And so then Gadadhar was standing there, watching, astonished, and then he felt very bad. He felt, oh, he's such a great Vaishnava, and I was thinking like this about him, in my mind, and then he was thinking, how can I rectify myself? And then he thought, well, he had not yet taken Diksha, initiation, from anyone yet, and so he thought, he thought that the guru is like the father, and the father does not accept any offenses from their child. And so he thought, then I will ask him for initiation. And I think he first asked Mahaprabhu for his blessings and permission, and then he took initiation from him. So it was it was very, ontologically, it's very perfect, because Rishabhanu is the father of Radharani, and Pundarik is Rishabhanu, and Gadadhar is Radharani, so they had this kind of connection. And then later, it's said that Gadadhar, he finally, Gadadhar, he was always like the shadow of Mahaprabhu. So wherever Mahaprabhu went, Gadadhar was right behind him. And so when Mahaprabhu ended up staying in Puri, then Gadadhar, he also came to stay in Puri. And so, but then there was one period when, because Gadadhar, he had so much like ecstasy, he was in such a deep devotional mood that he forgot his mantra. There were different mantras that gurus would give to their disciples. And it wasn't like what we're following today, like this very like kind of systematized way of practice. This is like kind of a modern thing that was started by Srila Saraswati Thakur. But before, things were kind of more spread out and disorganized. I mean, disorganized for lack of another word that I can think of. But it wasn't like this institutionalized form of practice, So, and just the fact that Punjari gave initiation like that, it wasn't like there was this you're part of this institution. Have you been given a certificate that you can give it? It wasn't like that, But like any qualified Vaishnav could do that,
Do you think they would have had a fire again? Or not even that formal?
Oh, I don't know. Well, the fire yajna is for, isn't that for the Brahmin thread?
Well, we do it for our Harinam.
Actually, that's an anomaly. That was actually something that Srila Prabhupada did.
The real dish is your mantra.
Yeah. I mean, this is a complicated subject matter. Because even like Harinam Diksha, I think that's kind of a modern thing too. Like giving the Maha Mantra like in this very formal way, like that's kind of a modern thing, actually. Like there would be different, and I don't even know if they would call them Gayatri mantras. I'm not exactly sure, but there were, but that like what we will call today like Harinam Diksha, that wouldn't be called Harinam Diksha. No. Diksha would be what we call second initiation now. But yeah, the fire sacrifice thing, that was actually started by, for the first initiation, that was started by Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada. And that was, as I understand, just to kind of create more of an impressive idea upon persons, like make it look like something very serious, The Sagar Maharaj, I only found out about this because I was listening to some archive recordings of Srila Gurudev in Australia. And there was one talk of Sagar Maharaj there in Australia, one of the early tours. And he was saying how he was in ISKCON, right? Of course, very well. And so he saw how things were done there. And then when he came, then in later years, he came to realize, hearing from, so many quotes from Shastra and hearing from Srila Sridhar Maharaj that the holy name is actually superior to any type of fire sacrifice. The holy name is superior to so many Vedic rituals and practices and pious activity. So then Sagar Maharaj, that question came up in his mind. So why did Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada do fire sacrifice with first initiation? The holy name is independent, doesn't require anything. So he asked Srila Sridhar Maharaj, why did Srila Swami Maharaj do that? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj gave a very nice answer. He said, in a time of famine, distribute food by any means. Just in a time of famine, distribute food by any means. So it wasn't like the orthodox traditional way of doing things, but he had it also wasn't the traditional way of doing things to to give out Harinam malas before initiation. That was something else that Srila Swami Maharaj did. But he was doing that because he was seeing what was necessary at the time, and in order to impress something upon these people and to inspire them in the way that they needed to be inspired. But I mean, like in the time of Mahaprabhu, yeah, I mean, I believe the fire sacrifice is like, that's something that Brahmins would do for when they would receive the Brahmin thread, like when they're around 12 years old. Brahmin boys.
Is the witness.
Sorry, what did you say?
The idea being that Agni is the witness. Is it like that?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know very much about fire sacrifices. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah. So then I suppose there would be like another initiation with another mantra too, traditionally. And then whether Gadadhar Pandit did that as well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Because I think Gadadhar Pandit was a Brahmin, so... Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know enough about all the history of things. But anyhow, Gadadhar Pandit received a particular mantra from Pundarik Vijayanidhi, but he forgot it. Because he was in this mood of ecstasy, and so he went to Mahaprabhu and asked him for a mantra, because he'd forgotten his mantra. But it's significant. Mahaprabhu, he chose to not cross over the honor of Pundarik, and so he told Gadadhar Pandit, "Your Guru Pundarik is coming soon to visit. You wait. I will not give you any mantra. You wait for your Guru to come, he can give you again, So, yeah, Pundarik Vijayanidhi. And I think we mentioned this morning how Mahaprabhu would call him Prema Nidhi, like a Vijayanidhi, a reservoir of knowledge, but Mahaprabhu would call him Prema Nidhi, reservoir of prema,
Are there other stories about him?
There must be also, and I'm remembering another thing that Srila Sridhar Maharaj, there's a chapter in Sermons, Volume 2. Jai. There's a chapter in Sermons, Volume 2, where Srila Sridhar Maharaj is discussing this day, And there's not so much about Pundarik Vijayanidhi. He tells that story. And now I remember another thing that he mentioned about him is that Pundarik Vijayanidhi had very special regard for the mother Ganges, for Ganga Devi. And normally, there's allowance for entering into the river Ganga. We're more careful with the Jamuna River. But with the Ganges, generally devotees are going in, Gurudev, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, they used to bathe in the Ganges. But Pundarik Vijayanidhi, he had this very special regard and mood towards the Ganga, and he would not enter. And even Srila Sridhar Maharaj said that he didn't like to go in the day when he would become disturbed if he saw people like disrespecting her waters, like people wash their clothes and their dishes and everything in there, and he would be disturbed, so he would go like in the evening, at night, when it was quiet, and he would offer like some worship like that. That also, I remember, is mentioned about him. And also, as we mentioned this morning, how when he was coming to Navadvip, Mahaprabhu could feel his approach, and Mahaprabhu, at that time, he started to call out Bap, which means father. So Mahaprabhu, he was feeling that relationship, in the mood of Radharani, that his father was coming. And no, but none of Mahaprabhu's associates could understand. He just suddenly started calling out Bob, Bob, Yeah, and that's everything that I've heard. Maybe there's some more that is told.
Am I confusing him with someone else, or did he also train dancing girls?
That's Ramananda Rai. Yeah, Ramananda Rai is in Puri. I think he's originally from Puri, Ramananda Rai. Orissa. But then Punjarik, he's from Bengal. And yeah, we don't hear so much about Punjarik Vijayanidhi, but Ramananda Rai, he's one of the principal associates of Mahaprabhu. So he has quite a prominent, place in Mahaprabhu's Leela. Ramananda and Swarup Damodar, Lalita Saki and Vishakha Devi. So Punjarik Vijayanidhi and Raghunath Das Goswami. There's so many stories about Raghunath Das Goswami, that we can say about him. I don't think we mentioned it this morning. But it's actually very interesting, like in the whole life of Raghunath Das Goswami, it's very instructive, like how he was born. Like you understand that Yoga Maya is at work here, and there's particular examples, and we also understand that the Vaishnavas appear. It's also mentioned they appear in different places and in different social castes in order to purify the person's belonging to, that demographic, like they get some special, just like we can think, like the Lord appears as a fish, then fish get some special mercy, right? They're getting some special attention, The Lord appears as a boar. Like, just think about it, like how, that's like so cool, like, that's so like loving, like he's giving attention. Like who would think of that? Like, they're pigs, they're fishes. But the Lord is appearing within that species, like to give them some special blessing. As the horse, right? There's even the Hayagriva, right? The horse avatar. So then also Vaishnavas, they're appearing in different social orders and different regions, and so special mercy is being given, in those areas. Haridas Thakur is born to a Muslim family, and then it's also showing like how non-prejudiced is Mahaprabhu's movement, is Krishna consciousness. There's no prejudice on religious background, social background, whatever it may be, So then Mahaprabhu makes, and we have to understand, this is at a time in India when there's this major conflict. This isn't like nowadays where there's this, very accommodating. Not everyone, but it's a very pervasive, accommodating mentality. There's some consciousness of, the proper mood and mentality. But this is at a time, when the Hindus and Muslims are like, in major conflict, and Muslims are disregarded, and vice versa, by one another. So who is Haridas Thakur? He's the Namacharya. Haridas Thakur, he started spreading the holy name before Mahaprabhu did. Like he has like a very important position in Mahaprabhu's line. Sometimes I think of him as like the extra member of the Panchatattva, like an honorary member of the Panchatattva. And we have this kirtan that we sing sometimes. You've heard it, I think. Gaur Nityananda Bo, Hari Bo, Gaur Shri Advaita Bo. And they go through the Panchatattva. But also I've heard Gurudev sing that, and he adds Haridas at the end. Gaur Haridasa Bo, Hari Bo. So he's like part of like that group of like the main distributors of Krishna consciousness. Mahaprabhu makes him like one of his generals. Nityananda and Haridas, it's mentioned, they were like his when Mahaprabhu began his preaching movement in Navadvip. Before he took sannyas, he actually started his kirtan movement. Then he appointed Haridas and Nityananda as his right and his left hand. So Haridas blow people's minds. Like Haridas Thakurs, they'll think of him as a Muslim. Mahaprabhu's promoting him as his main general. Very radical. For that time. So. Can't remember why I said all of that. It was related to, what were we talking? Were we talking about Gadadhar? We were talking about Raghunath Das Goswami. Yeah. So Raghunath Das Goswami, his whole life is very instructive. He's born into a very wealthy social class. Very wealthy, not necessarily. He's part of the kayastas, and they're generally well off, right? They're like merchants. So, but his family is particularly wealthy. They're billionaires by today's standards, working for the government. Tax collectors, keeping a good. What do you call it? Good cut for themselves. They're very wealthy. And so he's born like what everybody wants in this world. He has it right there. He's born into it, and he has zero interest. He not only zero interest, he's disgusted by it. He wants nothing to do with it. Or more, really, it's that he's so attracted to Mahaprabhu and his movement. He wants to be with that, And then Mahaprabhu, so he's trying again and again to be with Mahaprabhu. And then finally he gets one opportunity to meet with him briefly in Shantipur, Advaita Acharya's house. And Mahaprabhu kind of cuts him a little bit. And Mahaprabhu tells him, don't be in a rush. Stira hoya gore jao nahao batuli. Tells him, calm down. No, he says, stira hoya gore, calm down, go home, don't be crazy. Those are his words, exact words, what Mahaprabhu said, Calm down, go home, don't be a madman. And he says that one will gradually cross over the ocean of material existence. So we were discussing this point the other day. How Mahaprabhu gave that similar advice to Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. That it's an internal cultivation. Don't be too quick to change your whole external lifestyle. So Mahaprabhu gives that instruction. And so Raghunath follows it through, and he goes home, he gets married according to his parents' will. But he's inside, he's always thinking, how can I get free of all of this, And there's one comment that is made at one point in all these different episodes with Raghunath, a comment of his parents, and Srila Gurudev loved this. Many times Gurudev quoted it, that there was one occasion when his mother said to the father, why don't we just tie him up? Then he can't go anywhere, let's just tie him up, And then his father, he says, we've already given him a wife who's as beautiful as an apsara, beautiful heavenly damsel. And he has wealth equal to Lord Indra, the king of heaven. These are the greatest ropes of this world. These are the most binding things of this world. So what will some ordinary rope do? If these things can't tie him, then what will some rope do, So anyhow, he tries to adjust with his environment and keep his parents happy, But inside he's, thinking, how can I really become free from all this and stay with Mahaprabhu? And then one day he receives news that Nityananda Prabhu is nearby. He's, what is the name of the place where Raghunath is from? I can't remember, but it's not so far from Navadvip. Srila Charjamar, she would go there sometimes. Not far, no, I think it was even in between Navadvip and Calcutta, in the middle. Not so far, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours from our mat. But then one day Nityananda Prabhu was at Panihati, which is on the outskirts of Calcutta. So that would have been a few hours from Raghunath. Well, a few hours if you're going by train. Then it would have been a bit longer than that, going by horse and cart or walking. But anyhow, nearby, reachable distance. And so it mentions there that Raghunath, he considered something in his mind, and he understood he needed to get the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. And this is actually our line, that first you have to have the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, then you can get the mercy of Mahaprabhu, and then you can get the mercy of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. This is the channel. Heno nitai bine bai Radha Krishna paitenai. Without Nityananda, there is no Radha Krishna. So Raghunath Swami understood, he needed to get the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. And so he, he was wealthy. He used his wealth, and he put on a festival. And he went there to Nityananda Prabhu, and he was very shy, Raghunath Das Goswami. He was always very shy, which is also beautiful because he's coming from this kind of background, but he had zero ego about it, I mean, think about it, not only is there all this wealth, but with wealth comes so many other things like culture and education and all these things, so for many reasons, he could be proud, but no ego. He was always extremely shy. He wouldn't speak to Mahaprabhu directly, It would be through Swarup Damodar. So anyhow, he reached Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu was at a distance under a tree with some of his associates, and Raghunath stayed at some distance and gave his dandavat from this big distance. And then Nityananda saw him, and he called him over, and he told him, "Oh, why are you staying so far away? You are a thief. I'm going to punish you." And he said, "You have to feed all of my devotees, all of my friends, all of my associates." And so then for Raghunath, this was a wonderful opportunity, and so he used his wealth to put on this a breakfast festival. It was a breakfast festival, and so it's called the Chira Dadi Mahotsav. Chira is this they call poha, right, in other parts of India. In Bengal they call it chira, but elsewhere they call it poha. It's you know it.
Yeah, flat rice, what we call flat rice.
Yeah. Well, I call it chira. well, in a lot of the books it's translated as chipped rice, I think. Or maybe it's flat rice. Maybe it's flat rice.
But it is rice which is flat anyway.
Yeah. But it's this pre-cooked kind. There's so many different kinds of rice, in Bengal. There's mori, there's koi. You know koi?
No,
Right?
what's
Koi is the most tough. It's kind of like styrofoam. It's like this puffed rice, but it's not crispy. It's soft. They also, you see it in the Western health food stores sometimes.
It looks like woody.
No, it looks like styrofoam. It's a puffed rice, but it's soft and very chewy.
Bigger than woody.
Yeah, bigger than mori. Yeah, a little bigger than mori. Yeah. I would only experience they serve it in the mat on like austerity days. You know? But anyhow, but chira is nice, you know. Muri is nice, chira is nice, and chira it's like this pre-cooked rice and dried, and then you just soak it in water or yogurt, and then in a few minutes, you know, it's done. It's very nice. So this was one of the main, you know, items, you know, this chira and yogurt. So dadi means yogurt, so it's sometimes called the Chira Dadi Mahotsav, the festival of flat rice and yogurt. and then there were bananas and sweets and you know, different, you know, milk preparation. So it was like a fancy breakfast festival. And everybody came. Everybody came, you know. You experience that in Bengal. Like if there's a big prasadam festival, people start coming out of the woodwork, you know, like and you know, I'm pretty sure you get these like kind of like fake brahmacharis too, because if you're in saffron cloth, you'll get some special pranami. At least, like if there's a big festival, special prasadam. And if you're in saffron cloth, then you'll get some special pranami and special seeds, special prasadam, you know. So you know, it would attract lots of people, let's just say. So people came, the news spread, people came from all over for this festival, and there's unlimited supply. And one of my favorite descriptions about that festival is that Raghunath Das Goswami, he bought like supplies from shopkeepers in the whole region, like for this festival. And then those same shopkeepers, he like bought these ingredients, and then those same shopkeepers, they came and attended that festival, and they received those prasadam for free. You know? I really like that. I feel like that's like real Vaishnav mood, you know, like. You know, like I'll buy this from you and then I'll give it back to you for free as prasadam. You know, like talk about a bonus. You know, like such a generosity of spirit. You know. So and it's mentioned that Mahaprabhu came there like in a subtle body. Mahaprabhu came there, and he had this very playful interaction with Nityananda Prabhu, where Nityananda was like feeding Mahaprabhu, and nobody could understand, you know, like a few very special devotees could understand or could see Mahaprabhu, but otherwise everyone just thought Nityananda's like acting funny, you know, like as he does, you know. So Mahaprabhu even came there, and then also Raghunath gave like pranami, like in the form of gold coins to Nityananda Prabhu and all his followers. It was this very grand festival. And then Nityananda Prabhu gave his blessings to Raghunath, and then Raghunath understood he was free. You know, he was free. And then from that day, in like rich people's houses, there would be 3 zones. Like there would be the inner, most protected zone. Then there was a middle zone, and then there was an outer zone where like the servants would stay. And so then from that day, Raghunath, I think he would stay in the outer zone. He wouldn't go anymore into the inner zone. He stayed in the outer zone. And he was just like waiting. And he had bodyguard, like his parents were really like watching him. Like he had bodyguards, you know.
He ran away how many times?
I'm not sure, but several times he tried to run away. So he was just waiting, like, for the right moment, to leave. And then there was this one morning, very early in the morning, where their family guru, Jadunandan Acharya, he came, and there was some situation he needed a pujari, and he was having some, I don't remember the details, but some situation, he had to go somewhere, and he needed a pujari to take care of some deity or something. So he came, and Raghunath, he's like the man of the house, he's the heir, he has power, influence, and so he came to ask Raghunath if he could help him organize this. So Raghunath said, yes, of course, no problem. And so he came out with his guru, with Jadunanda. And because everyone saw, he's with the family guru, they thought, it's okay, we don't need to follow, so that nobody followed them. And then they were on their way to this person's house, and then Raghunath said, I'll take care of it, don't worry. You can go ahead with what you need to do. I'll make the arrangements. And so then Jadunandan, he left in another direction, and so Raghunath was alone. And so he went and made those arrangements, and then he just started running, And he was very intelligent. So first he started going in the wrong direction. He ran in the opposite direction for some time. Maybe a day or 2 days, I'm not sure. But for some period, because he knew as soon as they realized that he was gone, at the crack of dawn, then they'd be after him. So he went in the opposite direction. And then at a certain point, he turned around and started going towards Puri. But he was very clever. He avoided the main public road. He went like kind of through the bush. And he hardly ate, there were just a couple days when he managed to find some food to eat. Otherwise he wasn't eating and hardly sleeping, and I think it took him about 12 days to get to Puri. And then he finally reached Puri, this mess, you could just imagine his clothes, and hasn't been eating, his hair, a complete mess, And Mahaprabhu received him with so much affection, and he told Govinda to take care of him, getting him some clothes and some food, and like that, these practical considerations. And then there's this it's humorous and also very cutting. In their first meeting, Mahaprabhu, he tells him, it's very heavy. He tells him, you're very fortunate, Raghunath, because Krishna has saved you from the stool ditch of material enjoyment. Very heavy. And then Mahaprabhu, I can't remember exactly how he says it, but then Mahaprabhu is also saying how you've been saved from your family members, they're so absorbed in this stool ditch of material, referring to his father and his uncle, Haranya and Govardhan Majumdar, his father and uncle. They were very known to the Vaishnavas, and then Mahaprabhu says, they're like my family members, so I can talk about them like that. Because actually, Raghunath Das Goswami, his parents, they were kind of we've all known and met persons like this, like a Hindu parents who really like the Hare Krishnas, and they'll support them and give donations, but they don't want their children to join. They like to keep a safe distance, and give their donations and everything and go on Sundays, but they don't want their children to become mad Hare Krishnas, So his family were like that. And they were actually like major benefactors of the Vaishnavas and the Brahmins. They gave a lot of support to Advaita Acharya, Haridas Thakur, also I believe Mahaprabhu's father Jagannath Mishra. So they were actually like I think it's mentioned somewhere like all the Brahmins in Nadia district, like this major region, they were supporting them. So they were very pious people, and they had a lot of money. and it's mentioned that somewhere that there's this expression, Vaishnav Prai, means almost Vaishnav, like a Vaishnav. They're described like that, because they were so respectful and appreciative of the Vaishnavas, but they weren't quite ready to dive in, and they didn't want their son to dive in either. So Mahaprabhu, he had some relationship with them, and he was kind of like teasing, like in this way, you know. And then Mahaprabhu puts Raghunath in the care of Srup Damodar, which was very special because Srup Damodar was the right hand, most intimate associate of Mahaprabhu. And Raghunath, he took that very seriously. He was being put under the care of Raghunath, of Srup Damodar, and he actually became known as Swarup's Raghunath. You know, so he became known as Swarupera Raghu, the Raghu who belongs to Srup Damodar, because there were a few Raghus. There was Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. There was Raghunandan Thakur, who we were remembering this morning, and maybe one or two others. So there were a few Raghus. So he became identified as the Raghu who belongs to Srup Damodar, that Raghu, you know, because they became so closely, you know, connected. And he was so much under the care and guidance of Srup Damodar.
So by reaching Puri, was he beyond the reach of his parents? And he no longer getting?
Well, no, they got him eventually.
From Puri?
Yeah. I mean, they were like, you know, I mean, actually, when you have so much money, you can do anything, you know. Eventually they found him, and they sent a cook and a servant, and they sent money, and they hired a house for him. Yeah, you remember now. And in the beginning, Raghunath went along with that a little bit, and he used those resources to put on a feast every now and again for Mahaprabhu and the devotees. But then eventually, of course, yeah, well, they didn't do anything forcibly, you know. I mean, by that point, it was kind of too late, you know. He was out of...
They were getting the message.
Yeah. And also, they had appreciation for the Vaishnavas, for the devotees. So, you know, it wasn't like they were, you know, like demonic or really anti, you know.
You didn't want to deprogram.
Yeah, they didn't try to deprogram him. But so then there was so Raghunath Das Goswami was under the care of Srup Damodar, and then at a certain point Raghunath was feeling like, you know, all this time I've been wanting, you know, in my previous life I was wanting so much to come and be at the shelter of Mahaprabhu, and I was like kind of expecting I would have some like one-on-one, some personal, you know, exchange and instruction from Mahaprabhu. So he felt a little bit like disappointed, you know. It's a little bit. And so Srup Damodar conveyed this to Mahaprabhu. And then so Mahaprabhu called for Raghunath and he told him, Srup Damodar, he is more than me, you know. Srup Damodar knows more than me. You know, so that I've put you in his care rather than my direct care, that's not like a lower thing. He can actually give you more than I can give you. And it's true, actually, you know, like Srup Damodar knew what Mahaprabhu needed more than Mahaprabhu needed. You know, like when Mahaprabhu was in different moods of ecstasy, Srup Damodar would know like what was needed at that time, like what shloka, or what verse, or, you know, what song, what drama, like he knew better than anyone. Or if someone, if anyone wanted to give anything to Mahaprabhu, show anything to Mahaprabhu, it had to go through Swarup Damodar, because Swarup Damodar would know what's pleasing, what's not pleasing. So really, it's true, So Mahaprabhu told that, it's not a lower thing that you've been put under the care of Swarup Damodar. He can help you more than me. And then he said, however, if you want some personal instruction, then I will give you something, And then there are these famous instructions that he gave. Gramya kata na shunibe, gramya varta na kuhibe, balona kaibe ar balona padibe, amani manada hoya, Krishna nama sada lobe, manasi braje radha Krishna seva, something like that. So saying that never hear gossip, basically. Gramya kata means village talk, means worldly talk, materialistic talk, or gossip, meaningless talk. Don't hear it and don't speak it. Don't eat too nicely, don't dress too nicely, and remaining, humble, not expecting any honor for oneself. Always take the name of Krishna. And then the concluding instruction is not for the general souls, is for the Madhyam Adhikar Vaishnav. Within your mind, always reside in Vrindavan and render service to Shri Shri Radha Krishna. So these instructions Mahaprabhu gave to Raghunath, and they're for, all Vaishnavas, other than that last one. So he gave these instructions to Raghunath, and then he also gave him a Govardhan Shila. As we mentioned this personally, this was a Govardhan Shila Mahaprabhu had, someone had given to Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu had this Shila in his personal possession for 2 years. And he would hold it to his heart, would hold it to his eyes when he was crying in ecstasy. And he gave him this Govardhan Shila along with Gunjamala, these berries that represent Radharani. And he gave this instruction to Raghunath that you, and this Gurudev has pointed this out, because Govardhan has different aspects. And in this way, there's a similarity with Mahaprabhu, because Mahaprabhu has both the aspect of the Supreme Lord and also the aspect of the devotee. And so also Govardhan has an identity as a devotee. Then he also has another aspect of being non-different with Krishna. And so there may be some confusion, like how do we worship Giriraj? And so Gurudev, he pointed out, we can understand Govardhan has these different aspects. However, we are worshipping Govardhan in the way that Mahaprabhu instructed Raghunath Das Goswami. So those instructions were important. Mahaprabhu told him, worship this Govardhan Shila as non-different from Krishna, and worship this Gunjamala as non-different from Radharani. And so Raghunath received that, and he took that as I've been given to the shelter of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Now we're running out of time. But then after Mahaprabhu left the world and Swarup Damodar left the world, Raghunath took shelter of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Vrindavan. Especially Rupa Goswami had very great affinity for Srila Rupa Goswami, and spent the rest of his days there in Vrindavan, composing poetry and, absorbed in, the higher world, and Prapana Jivanamrita, the nectar that the surrendered souls taste. He also, you can't, we don't have enough time, but there's so many important things about Raghunath Das Goswami's life and contribution, pastimes. But there are also, I'll just finish with this, because this is also very significant. He wrote, after Rupa Goswami left the world, he felt, very deep separation. He was devastated. And he wrote these very profound prayers. Shunyayate mahagoshtam ganinjo jagarayate. I can never remember. Shunyayate mahagoshtam ganinjo jagarayate. Jiva tu rahitasya me radha kunda. I can't remember. But saying that. And Raghunath Das Goswami, when we think of Raghunath, we think of Govardhan, we think of Radharani. Those were what was most dear to his heart, But in the absence of Rupa Goswami, in these prayers, he's saying, like, without the shelter of my Gurudev, all of these things which are so dear to me, they've become inimical to me, like fearful to me. He said that now Govardhan appears like this python coming to devour me. Radha Kund appears like a tiger coming to devour me. These things which are so dear to me, which are my very life, and without the shelter of Guru, they take on a fearful aspect. So, this is another very significant prayer. And that reminds us of, Gurudev, the logo that Gurudev designed. That the disciple is like the lotus, in the Guru is like the water, and Krishna is like the sun. And without the shelter of the water, Guru, that Krishna's sun, will burn the lotus disciple. So very, profound expression of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. Okay, we can stop there.